Bursts of happiness with the Paul O'Grady Show, sponsored by Blue Toilet Care.
Join me in a couple of minutes when we'll be live at Wembley Stadium as we prepare for Aston Villa's FA Cup final with Arsenal.
Now the latest from ITV News Central in the Midlands.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Central, live from Wembley Stadium on the eve of Aston Villa's FA Cup final with Arsenal. Tonight, we recall the last time Villa won the FA Cup final nearly 6 decades ago as we speak to the man who scored both of their winning goals.
You go up to the Queen there and she puts her hand out and it's the most gentle sort of way.
And we come right up to date, talking to the manager and the players who are desperate to finally bring the cup back to the Midlands. Plus, we meet the family hoping for a round of applause at the 63rd minute of the game to mark the memory of one fan who won't be here. Good evening. So here we are, 15 years after Aston Villa last made it to an FA Cup final, and believe it or not, 58 years since they last won an FA Cup final. Villa, like Arsenal, sold their allocated 25,000 seats with ease, but as manager Tim Sherwood said, Villa could have filled this stadium on their own, and I believe he's right, 90,000 seats in there. That much excitement from the Villa fans that I'm quite sure they could have done that. It's only Friday, and as you can see, the Villa fans are already arriving and getting in the spirit of things. We'll be hearing a little bit more from Tim Sherwood with his thoughts later in the programme. But first of all, I'd like to just hear a few words from a couple of the players. First of all, the thoughts of Dutch ace Leandro Bacuna, who scored one of the goals that kept Villa in the competition. He says it's all about making history. But first, let's hear from Ashley Westwood. The Englishman knows how much it would mean to the fans to lift the cup after such a long season of fighting against relegation.
It's a special occasion, like I said, for an English lad to play in an FA Cup final, have the chance of playing in the FA Cup final. It's special, but like I said, the main aim for us was securing Premier League status, and now it shifts to the FA Cup final. It's going to be big.
I had a lot of fans and stuff telling me yeah, you need to win the cup. At least if we lost the last 2 games, they still were positive. They were like, yeah, I'll see you at the cup final. Make sure we win that one, then everything is good for us. So the people, all the fans, they just want to win the final. They just want to sign history.
So the players really feeling ready for it. As I said, we'll be hearing from manager Tim Sherwood a bit later. We've got loads more coverage to come. It really is the place to be as you look ahead to Aston Villa against Arsenal in this hopefully historic night for Aston Villa. Also in the programme, I'll be joined by a former Villa player who was with the club during their most successful spell. And I'll be asking him, can an Aston Villa side who finished the Premier League season in 17th really beat an Arsenal team who finished 3rd? Now, though, it's over to Matt and Sam with a roundup of the day's news.
Steve, thank you. And we'll be returning to Steve at Wembley a little later on in the programme. In other news, though, now, police across the Midlands are searching for a man who escaped from Dovegate Prison near Uttoxeter in Staffordshire. Haroon Ahmed was reported missing on Wednesday afternoon. The 26-year-old was jailed in 2008 for a robbery. He has several connections to Derbyshire.
Police are appealing for witnesses after a man's arm was almost severed when he was attacked with a machete in Birmingham. The 24-year-old was in a property on Rilston Road in Quinton last night when a number of cars pulled up outside. A gang of 8 men struck him with bats and a machete. Police believe it was a targeted attack.
Sea cadets from the West Midlands have been mixing with royalty today at a special ceremony to celebrate the charity's new flagship.
3 cheers, CS Rawley! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray!
Princess Anne led the naming and commissioning of training ship Royalist, which has been named in her honour.
Well, it replaces the original flagship, also named by the Princess Royal more than 40 years ago. The Sea Cadets is a national charity for 10 to 18-year-olds, and today's event attracted members from Shirley and Sutton Coldfield in Birmingham and Stratford-upon-Avon. Among them was Ashley Freeman. He told us how much it means to them.
It's a fantastic thing for the Sea Cadets, being able to offer such an experience for generations of young people throughout the country. It really helps bring the Sea Cadets ethos of, a taste of naval life to young people. Really helps bring that to life.
Well, from the seas to the skies now, because the last flying Vulcan bomber will be retired after this year's display season. Enthusiasts spent years raising the £7 million needed to restore the plane at an airfield near Lutterworth in Leicestershire.
The former Wolves chairman, Sir Jack Hayward, donated £500,000. Next month, visitors to the RAF Cosford Air Show in Shropshire will get to see the plane in the sky in one of her last shows. David Hurst reports.
The last of the Vulcans and the start of its long goodbye. Taking to the skies ahead of its last flying season. It'll be grounded from October because of a shortage of skilled engineers capable of keeping the Vulcan airworthy.
The fact that the aeroplane isn't going to continue beyond the end of this display season is tremendously sad, and for all its millions of supporters up and down the country.
And for you, not being able to fly it anymore?
I will miss it, but as I say, all good things come to an end, and I've had a really good time.
Still near the top of the secret list is the Vulcan bomber, the all-British delta-wing aircraft that sets the shape of the planes of tomorrow. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce jet engines, the Vulcan also...
Distinctive both in shape and sound, the Vulcan was Britain's nuclear deterrent during the Cold War. Built to carry nuclear bombs, and only taken out of service when the Polaris submarine was built in the late 1960s. It secured its reputation in 1982, when it became a vital weapon during the Falklands War, dropping bombs which caused widespread damage to the runway and airfield at Port Stanley, causing major disruption to the Argentine forces. It also earned Martin Withers the Distinguished Flying Cross. He flew the Vulcan on its first bombing mission during the conflict.
I never expected the opportunity to fly a Vulcan again after 1982, so this has been something I've thoroughly enjoyed for the last few years. I mean, now I have more time to spend with my family. Yes.
You'll miss it?
Yeah, I'll miss it. Yeah.
We've flown now for 7 years, this is our 8th year. Creating an incredible impression on the public. We've got literally tens of thousands of enthusiastic supporters, and we've made a difference.
But the Vulcan isn't finished just yet. It's already been penciled in for more than 20 air shows across the UK during the summer. But even then, it won't be the end, because the Vulcan will be used to inspire future generations with a passion for engineering and innovation.
A father and his 3 sons have made it through to the final of Britain's Got Talent after becoming one of the 2 winners from last night's semi-final.
The Neils from Solihull sang the Cat Stevens song, Father and Son, with a montage of their lives playing behind them on the screen. All the judges, including Simon Cowell, were moved by their performance.
Simon, what did you think? God, I actually got quite emotional.
When something really hits you here, you've got to go with it. I'm going for the Anil.
And the band will now sing at the final, which is this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on ITV. We're all emotional. Very emotional night.
Yes, good luck to the Neils.
Brilliant.
Let's return now to Steve at Wembley as the build-up to the FA Cup final continues. And Steve, you were with Villa fans on the train heading to Wembley earlier today. Bet it was noisy.
Well, yes, I wasn't planning to be on the train with Villa fans. I was expecting a nice quiet journey, but they all got on when I did, and actually we had a really good time. The cards came out. I couldn't join the game. It's 50p a go. I can't afford that kind of thing, but we had a good laugh, and I really got a feel for how they were feeling ahead of the game. Nervous is the word I'd say, certainly nervous. And while we're talking of trains, it's probably worth mentioning that there are extra services being put on by London Midland, but they are warning fans and reminding them they are alcohol-free trains going to Wembley and from Wembley, so by all means take those extra trains but leave the beer cans at home. Now, I'm joined by a guest, a former Villa player who, like anybody who's played for Villa in the last 50 years, didn't win the FA Cup with them. But Pat, you had some good times. You were there in that squad that won the European Cup. How are you feeling ahead of the final?
A little bit apprehensive. I think if we'd have had two decent, last results of the season, I think we'd have been looking, a little bit more feeling about it. But at the minute, I think they'll do fine. So you're in the cup final. You've done all the hard work to get there, and now you really just got to go and finish it off. And I know a lot of the players and the manager are talking about the history side of it, and it'd be so nice to get some silverware for the fans. I mean, it's 58 years since the FA Cup. Doesn't come along very often. As you can see, it's your lifetime, it's your career's gone before you have a chance to play at Wembley and play in the FA Cup. So the lads don't realise how lucky they are tomorrow to be playing.
Arsenal finished 3rd, Villa 17th. There's a big difference between those places, almost double the points Arsenal had. Will that tell in a cup final?
Well, I think it is. It's a one-off. It is a one-off, and you can say that. Nobody else can win the FA Cup tomorrow. It's either going to be Aston Villa, or it's going to be Arsenal. It's got to be one of them. So you've got to look at the fact that Tim will have them wound up. He'll have a game plan, and so long as you stick to your game plan, we'll have a good day out tomorrow.
Right, we'll talk to you more in a moment. You mentioned Tim there, so it seems a good time to hear from Tim Sherwood, doesn't it? The man who arrived at Aston Villa only in February, and really, the club were on such a down, weren't they? And he's brought them to life, Tim Sherwood has, with his enthusiasm and his passion and excitement. And he says that tomorrow he's looking for someone in that dressing room to be a hero.
It's a one-off game, and form goes out of the window. But we know that we're the underdogs. We know that Arsenal have been there and done it before. They're the holders of the trophy, and it's going to be very difficult for us. But we're not going there just to make the numbers up. We're going to give them a good game. I know what the boys are capable of in one-off games, and they've proved that in this FA Cup run. On big occasions they've produced the goods, and we need to do it one more time. It's a one-off opportunity to put this club to another trophy for this huge football club and put themselves in the history books, and there's a hero in that dressing room somewhere.
There could be a hero in that dressing room. What do you think Tim's brought to this club in such a short space of time?
Well, I think what he's brought is a new manager who embraces the technology and looks at different things. But I think he's the old style manager as well. He knows when to praise players. He knows when to pat them on the back. He knows when to have a go at them. And I think that's what players need. They know exactly where to stand with him. And yes, as I say, he looks into the technology side of it, and everything else. But he's a good old-fashioned manager, and he just wants the best. Exactly.
OK, we'll hear a little bit more from Pat in a moment, but well, listen, you know what, all this talk of it so long since they won it. There was a time when Villa were the most successful team in the FA Cup. They were the first ones to win it 7 times, and they did that back in 1958. They won the game 2-0, and both goals came from one man, and I've been to meet him.
The Wembley pitch is like a palace lawn, and it's perfect cup final weather when Aston Villa in the striped shirts take the field with Manchester United.
It was 1957, Wembley, the FA Cup final. Aston Villa against Manchester United, Villa the underdogs. But somehow the victors, thanks to 2 goals from one man. Peter McParland, the man who scored the goals that gave Aston Villa their last FA Cup final victory to date. He now lives in Bournemouth, and that's where I caught up with him as he showed me one of the many walks he still enjoys. He is a very fit and healthy 81. Back at his house, a chance to remember Villa's last great FA Cup victory, and his goals nearly 60 years on.
When we were in the tunnel, Stan Lynn, our right back, was looking at the Manchester United players. Look at the faces, they're a bit nervous. Some of these fellas are a bit nervy and all that. So come on, let's get at them. And when you're in the tunnel and you come out of the tunnel into the crowd, it's absolutely phenomenal. The roar that goes up, the open air there, just let this almighty roar. And that's a great feeling.
Out to Johnny Dixon, who passes to McParland, and Blanchflower hasn't a chance. 1 up for Villa.
There's a nice movement on the right between Dixon, Crowther and Smith, the outside right. And he put a terrific cross in, and I nipped in front of Duncan Edwards and Bill Foulkes. They're 2 English internationals, and banged it full force with my head from about 18, 20 yards out, you know, and it flew in the back of the net, right in the top corner.
A hot shot hits the post, then McParland bangs home the rebound.
Johnny Dixon swiveled on the ball, cracked it against the crossbar, which it went up in the air, straight up in the air, and I volleyed the ball as it came down from hitting the crossbar.
Aside from the goals, Peter had been involved in another key moment in the game. A crunching challenge in the 6th minute on Ray Wood. The United keeper was out cold and would have to be taken off. In those days, there were no substitutes.
That particular moment, I was on the deck, and when I opened my eyes, 100,000 people were going round and round, and I thought, that's me finished in the game, you know. But I was lucky enough, I recovered from it, and unfortunately for Ray, he had a little bit of he had a cracked jawbone, and he had to go off.
He has to leave the field on a stretcher.
Like many, Peter had seen this black and white Pathé newsreel a couple of times since the game. But ITV Central managed to locate something rarely seen before now. Colour footage from the match. And for the first time since 1957, Peter McParland was able to see his day at Wembley in colour. Soon the memories of the victory came into sharp focus.
You go up to the Queen there, and she puts her hand out, and it's the most gentle sort of way. She puts it out, and you touch her hand, and you know, when you feel how gentle it is, you know, then you don't give it a big shake or something. Just touch her hand, and that's it. You know, get the medal and that. Absolutely beautiful, you know.
That was the past. This was the man who made it happen. But he has one last hope.
Before I move on from this earth, I want to see Villa win the cup, you know. So they had a chance in 2000, didn't take it. Now we're back in the same position again. It's my chance again to see them win the cup, and that'll keep me happy for the rest of my life.
Maybe this is the year he finally gets his wish. Don't you want them to win just for him at least? He really deserves it. Let's hope they get lucky. That was 1957. We've actually got some footage of Villa winning the cup that's older than that. How about this 1920? Villa with the first FA Cup final since the First World War, beating Huddersfield 1-0. Billy Curtin scored the only goal, which was, I believe, in the 100th minute, so it obviously went into extra time. That was Villa's 6th FA Cup win. At the time, they were the only club to have won it 6 times. As I say, they used to be regulars in it. Well, what about that? And that was at Stamford Bridge, not at Wembley, that game. You won't remember that one, Pat, I'm guessing.
I don't remember the last time we won the FA Cup. He's too old.
But I think we have to finish on the note. You've talked about the fact that it's one game, anybody can win it. But will the players go in knowing they're underdogs? Will that help, or will that be a hindrance?
No, I think the Premiership players, they've played against them, you know, twice this season, so they know exactly what they've got to do, you know, as though they've not played against them before. It will be tough. We know it's going to be tough, and Villa are the underdogs, and I don't think they mind that, actually. But it's all about what you do on that day. Play the game, you know, not with your head, with your heart. You've got to keep it nice and tight and see what happens.
And pick up some silverware, and that could lift Villa massively for the years ahead, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to finish where we did in the league is, you know, we all know that's not quite good enough. But we've stayed in the Premiership, and now let's finish the season off while winning the FA Cup. It's a fantastic chance. They're there now. Let's go and do it.
Let's go and do it. Lovely. Thank you very much, Pat. Good to see you again. Well, okay, so it would mean a lot for Aston Villa, but I suppose there's also the other angle of what would it mean for Villa financially? Would it make a difference? And for the region's economy, would any money be brought in? We asked Dr. Steve McCabe, who's with the Birmingham City University Business School, for his thoughts.
You're looking of the order about sort of 3 or 4 million quid in terms of sort of the prize money, the sort of the additional sponsorship and sort of the deals they may sort of secure out of it. So in the sense for a sort of a club like Aston Villa in the Premiership, it's not sort of huge, it's significant, but as I say, it won't be as good as certainly staying in the Premiership, which of course is the sort of the number one priority for Tim Sherwood. I looked at this over the sort of last number of years, and teams that sort of in the sort of the latter stage of their FA Cup, their sort of their points per game, they tend to sort of dip, as it were, so they sort of find it harder to survive in the sort of Premiership. So coming back to sort of the thing about the money, if Villa had finished higher in the sort of the Premiership, then of course they'd have won more money of that. If it's a purely financial thing, but let's face it, so the FA Cup, it's got sort of a long and very rich tradition, so there's a lot of history to this thing, and romance, let's face it. So Villa survived, that was number one priority. This is the sort of the big bonus, and let's hope that we can bring the cup back. I suppose amongst the Villa fans there might be a sort of prodigy boost. I suspect the sort of the blue side of the city will not sort of see it quite in those terms. I mean, having said that, it's always great to sort of win a major trophy. The last trophy to come here, of course, was the League Cup when Birmingham City won a couple of years ago, although unfortunately that sort of season they went down. So it's kind of marginal. It's not like sort of in Italy when Ferrari win, they used to reckon that sort of added sort of fillip to productivity. But nonetheless, it'd be sort of a great sort of coup for the city because let's face it, we need a boost.
Still a few people milling about here. Just dawned on me, this time tomorrow it will all be happening. It will have kicked off in there. We'll all be very nervous. Not just football happening tomorrow though. Over at the O2 in London, Frankie Gavin, the boxer from Birmingham, he has got a chance at the welterweight world title. He's taking on Kell Brook, who's from Sheffield. Kell Brook very highly rated, but Frankie Gavin really hoping that this will be his chance to become a world champion. So we wish him the very best of luck with that, and of course we'll let you know how he gets on as well. He's a Birmingham City fan, by the way, so I don't suppose he's too bothered how Villa get on. But it's a big sporting weekend for the Midlands. I say big, it's massive, isn't it? Sam, doesn't get bigger than this.
Doesn't really get much bigger than this, does it really, Steve? But fantastic way to build up to tomorrow's great game. Enjoy it, and thank you very much, Steve. Thank you.
Yes, let's hope you're telling us about good results as well. Thanks, Steve.
Yes, boxing and football.
Now, as Steve mentioned earlier, Aston Villa fans have been allocated 25,000 tickets for the final. And one fan who won't need a ticket but will have the best seat in the house probably is Prince William.
Yes, he'll be guest of honour at the game and will be presenting the winners with the FA Cup trophy. He's been explaining to BBC Sports' Gary Lineker just why he's a Villa fan.
All my friends at school were either Man U fans or Chelsea fans. I didn't really want to sort of follow the run-of-the-mill teams, and I wanted to have a team that was more middle of the table, that could give me the more emotional roller coaster moments, which, to be honest, now looking back,
bad idea.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. Could have had an easier time. And Aston Villa's always had a great history. I've got friends of mine who support Aston Villa, and one of the first sort of FA Cup games I went to was Bolton v Aston Villa. It was back in about 2000. It was a semi-final, which sadly Villa then went on to lose against Chelsea. But it was fantastic. I sat with all the fans, I had my red beanie on. I sat with all the Brummy fans and I had a great time. And it was just the atmosphere, the camaraderie, and I really felt that there was something I could connect with.
Well, as Prince William knows, tomorrow's final could go to extra time or even penalties. But for one family of Villa fans, the most important moment of the game will come 18 minutes into the second half.
Yes, Andy Bevan explains why the 63rd minutes of the match could turn out to be so memorable.
My dad was Villa through and through. If you cut him, he'd actually bleed claret and blue.
Football affected our life tremendously.
He took me to my first Villa match when I was only 8 years old.
We just knew him as Grandad Villa.
Graham Hassel lived for Aston Villa. On grey and grimy weekdays he worked hard at the Rover, but on weekends his world was claret and blue. Graham's love for Villa even took priority over his wedding to wife Roma.
I had to do the date, so the Villa were not at home. And that has been the same with every birthday party, anniversary. We could not have it on a Saturday if the Villa were at home.
The loft at the couple's home in Wheely Castle is a shrine to the club. Priceless programmes, memorabilia and personal memories of a lifetime supporting his favourite team.
Season ticket holder for nearly 50 years. He's seen us win nearly everything, European Cup, League in 81, good times, numerous League Cups, but also seen the bad times when we was relegated and then got promoted again. The actual only thing he hasn't seen us win in person was the FA Cup.
Graham was just 6 years old when Villa last won the FA Cup in 1957. They beat Manchester United 2-1 at Wembley, but young Graham had to make do with watching it on TV.
The first club in soccer history to win the FA Cup 7 times.
Tomorrow, though, Villa could lift the cup again for the 8th time, and if they do, this time the Hassel family will be there to see it, but without Graham.
Graham was diagnosed with cancer. He had chemotherapy, unfortunately it didn't work, and it's just devastating news. He was like a second dad to me. He used to take me down the Villa as a kid. I was 8 or 9 years of age. He used to stand us up on the old floodlights, on the old AV floodlights, so me and Dan could get a better view.
I was determined to get into the semi-final, and I told him, I'm going to get you there, Dad, you know. And we got there with a struggle, but to see us win and see him smile again meant so much to me and my family. I was quite optimistic of getting him to the FA Cup final, but it wasn't meant to be, sadly.
My granddad was only 63 when he died, so it was still a young age.
We're going to take his shirt to Wembley tomorrow for a tribute to our granddad Villa.
And that's not all. The family are hoping that during the 63rd minute of tomorrow's final, 25,000 Aston Villa fans will fill Wembley with the sound of applause to mark Graham's passing. A minute of appreciation for a lifetime of dedication.
My husband would have the recognition for his lifetime support of the Villa.
If it happens, it'll be amazing. I know my dad will be up there watching down with a special seat in the sky.
Andy Bevan, ITV News.
That's the thoughts there of the Hassel family, and we wish them luck tomorrow in getting that applause for Graham.
Well, we saw there how much life can be dominated by allegiance to a team, and a couple from Walsall are facing their first dilemma of married life on the big day itself.
Yes, Villa fan Adam Anslow and not so enthusiastic Claire Aldridge planned their wedding for tomorrow, long before the Claret and Blues won through to the final.
Well, today the couple told ITV's Good Morning Britain that after a few suggestions that got Adam the silent treatment, we've all been there, let's face it, love has finally won the day.
I had my moments. He did push me a few times, but I know how much he loves football and the Villa, so it would ruin his day, I suppose, as well, if he didn't get to watch it. So I've got to compromise somewhere.
I did ask questions like, can we change the meal times? Can I wear my Villa top? And then we did come to a compromise about the screen. So we've managed to sort the schedule out, so everything finishes just before 5:30, and then we're able to watch the football then.
I don't know what our problem is, to be honest with you. He's thought it through, he's planned it, all good.
Well, technically everyone's happy,
Yes.
and let's hope that is the situation tomorrow. And from all the team here at Central, good luck, Aston Villa.
Good luck, goodbye.
Hello to you again. A very good evening. Well, the weather has certainly kept us on our toes today with pouring rain and blustery winds earlier, replaced by sunshine and scattered downpours this afternoon. It's a mixed old weekend of weather as well. We keep the clearest skies tomorrow. Great news if you're travelling to the FA Cup final down in Wembley. Some lovely sunshine. But then through Saturday night into Sunday, another batch of wet weather. A dose of rain for most of us into the early hours of Sunday before this gives way. And for all of us, those temperatures remain very much on the low side for the time of year. Another chilly feel as we go through the end of May. It's not until the middle of next week things start to pick up once more. By then, a switch in the wind direction, drawing in milder air from the near continent. Temperatures boosted a few degrees. It'll be warming up quite nicely come Wednesday onwards, and about time too, because by then we'll be into the first week of May. As for this evening, quite a chilly feel out there. Some late and low sunshine before dusk. Just the odd shower keeping us on our toes. These are few and far between, but could turn out to be a little heavy. A quieter and clearer night, and under those clear skies, temperatures slip away. A cold feel for the time of year, maybe even a touch of ground frost out in the sticks come dawn, can you believe? The compensation for a clear and chilly start will be gorgeous sunshine, bright blue skies from the word go tomorrow, if a little cool once more. I'll see you again soon.
How are you today?
Lloyd's Pharmacy, proud sponsors of the Pollen Count.
Well, it remains disappointingly chilly for the time of year for all of us in the coming few days. The upshot will be those low levels of pollen. Great news for hay fever sufferers. I'll see you again soon. Have a good weekend.
Breaking news tonight, he's still in charge. Blatter wins a 5th term as FIFA president. His victory comes despite arrests, allegations of corruption and threats by European football leaders to boycott future World Cups.
What football needs right now is a strong leader, an experienced leader.
Sepp Blatter was challenged by Prince Ali of Jordan, but he pulled out after losing a first round of voting.
I want to thank in particular all of those of you who were brave enough to support me. But having said that, I'll be withdrawing from the race.
I'm live in Zurich tonight with all the reaction to this developing story.
Also on the programme tonight, the mother of 2 children killed on holiday in Corfu attacks the charity donation from Thomas Cook's former chief executive.
If Harriet Green feels the need to offload some of that money to salve her conscience, that is her decision to make.
And the crackdown on legal highs that could lead to a 7-year jail sentence.
This is ITV News at 6:30 with Mark Austin in Zurich and Natasha Kaplinsky in the studio.
Good evening from Zurich, where despite the extraordinary corruption scandal engulfing FIFA, Sepp Blatter has won a 5th term as president. He failed to win outright in the first round of voting. A second round of voting was about to begin about half an hour or so ago in the building right behind me here. But in a dramatic turnaround in the last few minutes, his only opponent, Prince Ali bin Ali Hussein, suddenly threw in the towel and withdrew, leaving Mr. Blatter the clear winner. In his election speech, Mr. Blatter urged delegates to let him shoulder responsibility in a storm. Our sports editor Steve Scott reports on today's dramatic events.